lethargy and force them to seize their own destiny. He knew that for his movement to succeed and be permanent, he had to create a struggle that was initiated and supported by the people. Everything had to be legitimate and ideologically well-founded. A revolutionary idea at the time, it was announced to the whole country from the city of Amasya. Signed by Mustafa Kemal, Ali Fuad, Rauf, and other commanders, it became known as the Amasya Declaration.
The Declaration of Amasya is the foundation stone of the Turkish War of Independence. The nation must save itself by its own willpower. That was his slogan, that was his motto.
The struggle would need a leader of immense dedication, unprecedented effort, and concentration. His friends decided that Mustafa Kemal alone had the qualifications.
These patriotic officers put the national interest before their personal interest and their personal ambitions. They were all ambitious men, but they decided at that point that to make a success of the Turkish national resistance movement, they needed Mustafa Kemal as leader. Not only was he the best leader, he was the only leader who could make a success of the struggle.
The Amasya Declaration also announced the forthcoming congresses at Sivas and Erzurum. Under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal, secretly elected representatives from villages and towns around the country decided that the struggle had to be brought to a national plane and fought with a regular army. All suggestions of foreign intervention were refused. With an opposition forming against him in Sivas, the congresses were strenuous for Mustafa Kemal. Many people, questioning his ambitions and private life, doubted his political leadership. Others were weary that the struggle was becoming too personalized under his name. In addition, the Istanbul government, growing suspicious, had ordered his return. Viewed as a rebel general by the Sultan and the British, he was forced to resign from the military. Stripped of his official title, Mustafa Kemal was now a civilian, an ex-general without an army. His old friend Ali Fuad had been ordered to arrest Kemal. In rebellion, he refused. Now Kazım, the commander of the largest military force in Anatolia, received the same order.
This is a crucial turning point in the history of Turkey and the history of Mustafa Kemal. Kasım Karabekir could have arrested him, could have done many things, but instead he says to him, "Buyurun Paşam, here you are, you have my troops at your disposal." And from that moment on is really the beginning of the War of Independence.
Gaining Kazım's support, Mustafa Kemal decided to set the seat of the provincial government and open a parliament in Ankara. While Mustafa Kemal was busy organizing a regular army and establishing the principles of their struggle, the Greeks were advancing further east towards Ankara.
As Mustafa Kemal withdrew the national forces, which means the local guerrilla forces, back to Ankara in order to organize them into a regular organized army, there were many people in the Grand National Assembly who criticized Mustafa Kemal on the grounds that he was being defeated, that the Turks were losing their nation, and that instead of withdrawing forces, he should stand and fight.
Things looked very bleak for Mustafa Kemal. The Sultan sent an army of sorts to fight the nationalists. There were rebellions and mutinies all over Anatolia in response to the Sultan's call to kill Mustafa Kemal.
Mustafa Kemal drew strength from hopelessness and despair. His determination, self-confidence, and will for freedom since childhood enabled him to work restlessly and with great vigor. Spending endless hours at the parliament, he explained the situation and his goals to the deputies. "Freedom and independence are my character. I put it as the main condition that my country should have the same characteristics. In order for me to live, I should be the child of a free nation. Thus, the national sovereignty is a matter of life for me. He went on, together with his comrades, to organize an army that would stop the Greek advance. Two incidents, one personal, the other political, were to affect the course of his life. Fikriye, a woman with whom he had become intimate in Istanbul, could not endure their separation and had decided to join him in his struggle.
She was a very traditional Muslim girl who falls in love with her hero, comes to Ankara and functions as his wife and woman and makes a home for him.
Fikriye adored Mustafa Kemal, and he enjoyed being the center of her affection. People in Ankara had begun to notice this beautiful woman who occasionally rode a horse and accompanied Mustafa Kemal. Although not married, they seemed like the perfect couple, or so thought Fikriye. Time would tell what Mustafa Kemal thought. In the political arena, the Allies forced the Istanbul government to sign the Treaty of Sèvres on August 10th, 1920.
The result was a treaty which, if carried out, would have given the Turks independence in a small part of central Anatolia, would have left the rest of Anatolia, containing primarily Turks, either under control of the Allied powers or under the control of an Armenian and a Greek and Kurdish states.
Mustafa Kemal knew that the time had come to rally the people and carry the struggle to victory. He and his friends acted with swiftness and finesse, which would prevent the Allies from reacting to the very end.
He foresaw the way that battle could be won. It could be won basically by a combination of toughness of the Allies and creating divisions among them. He managed to create divisions with the British and the French to make certain that the great powers did not take any military action against him.
Securing the political situation, Mustafa Kemal ordered Kazım to capture eastern Turkish towns from the recently formed Armenian state. And by defeating the Armenians, Mustafa Kemal re-established Turkey's traditional eastern borders. With the east secured, he could now turn west to the rapidly advancing Greeks, who, along with Lloyd George, still did not consider him and the nationalists a serious threat.
Lloyd George himself, a few British politicians around him, felt that Mustafa Kemal was a wretch, a bandit, a rebel of the worst sort.
Mustafa Kemal was once again under attack in the parliament. The Greeks had captured Eskişehir and were approaching Ankara. But he knew that the Greeks, by penetrating too much into Anatolia, had traveled too far from their headquarters at Izmir.
He said very clearly, the moment we stop the Greeks anywhere in Anatolia, they're lost. Because once they're stuck, they didn't have the staying power to continue the war forever, particularly if Allied support for them was chipped away gradually, which Mustafa Kemal proceeded to do with great skill.